If you're a health or life coach and you like to know what goes on behind the scenes of other people's businesses, then today on the show I'm talking all about my 2024, the things that I've learned, the things that I've done, what's worked, what hasn't, and also my plans for 2025. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses, and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, we're talking all about the behind the scenes of what I've been up to in 2024, some of the lessons that I've learned, like my income breakdowns, what I've got planned for 2025, just a big kind of catch up about stuff that I've been doing this year. I do one of these, blog posts originally. I started off doing these blog posts. I think the first one that I've got on the website that it's linked to is from 2011. So I've been doing these kind of online reviews of my life and business for a long time. So this is one of a long tradition of me sharing these kind of behind the scenes updates. And it's really nice just to talk a little bit about the kind of behind the scenes stuff, and not just the business stuff, but also the life stuff, which is something I kind of want to talk a bit more about, I think, as we go into 2025, and actually talk a bit more about the living our best lives part of the get more clients, grow our businesses and live our best lives, because I think that's what a lot of us are here for, and part of our businesses is about that. So where do I start with 2024? It has been a fantastic year business-wise, really amazing. I talked about it on the show. I'll link to the episode that I did, where I kind of had a bit of I think I called it a bit of a meltdown, kind of in March time, when I just realised that something really fundamental in my business just wasn't working anymore. And that kind of created and kind of shifted things in me to make some really big changes, which have massively positively transformed my business. So when I started 2024, had a fantastic plan in place, everything was good, but quickly realised very quickly, kind of early in the year, that things were not going the way that I had envisaged. Things weren't working in the same way anymore, and basically just a lot of things had to change. So up until that point, my group program Wholehearted Business had been running as evergreen. People could join whenever they wanted, and there was something about that just wasn't quite connecting or working for me. It just wasn't making sense. It was also a 6-month program, and I found that it just wasn't the right amount of time. I can't even explain what it was that kind of made me realise it. I also had the issue where I wanted to shore up my recurring income base in the business. We all want to have financial safety. Again, I've talked about financial safety. I've got an episode of the show on it, which I will link to as well, because it is very stressful to run a business, especially when I am the main breadwinner in my family, when you don't have financial safety in your business. But the good news is there's ways to create that, and that is exactly what I've done. So I'm basically ending the year with one of my highest income years, with the most cash flow in place, and the highest amount of money sitting there in my business bank account than I've had in, I think, ever. So I've really turned things around. I'm really proud of this, and I'm just really proud that I've managed to turn things around and have done that. So it's really exciting. So what I did was I made some big changes to Wholehearted Business, my group program. I made it into a 12-month program, and I launched it. So that meant that I launched it and then I closed it. So I did that, and I made the price point different. It wasn't actually lower overall, it was actually slightly higher than what I've been charging, but kind of per the time that you're in, it was a little bit less. But I made it a recurring payment, so it was a 12-month program split into 12 monthly payments with a couple of different options. And I launched that in May, and that went really well. I had a fantastic launch, and that basically created this kind of ongoing recurring income base. Now, nothing earth shattering. My income, I've always talked about my income in the business. I'm not a 6-figure business owner, but I'm really happy with the income that I'm at. I definitely want to grow it, and I've had the same kind of income goal for a while that I'm just not hitting, and that's something I will talk about in a second. However, what I'm really happy about this year is that I have been able to make a big shift to this more recurring income based model, while also having launches, and it's just completely transformed how I feel in the business, the enjoyment that I get from the business, the feelings of safety that I get from the business, the way that I get to show up and serve my clients in the business, just everything has changed. So I launched Wholehearted Business and closed it, had a really, really good launch, and then reopened it again in September, had another pretty decent launch. And like I say, it is just the most wonderful group program. I will shout about it, but I've got a lovely community of people in there, really wonderful set of coaches in there who are all growing the businesses, and it's just a wonderful program. Absolutely love it. It will be reopening in March 2025. So get on the waitlist. If you go to the page, you can get on the waitlist ready for that. And it is a brilliant program. I honestly believe that for the investment, the amount that you get back is absolutely second to none. So really, really proud of that program. Really happy with it. It's wonderful. So that was a massive shift, and that kind of came from that low point of just feeling like nothing's working anymore, like everything sucks, and it was all just a bit not working. But things have massively changed since then. So that's fantastic. So yeah, that was a really, really big shift, and it's just triggered this completely different situation. So like I say, I'm kind of ending the year with a decent amount of income. I'm paying myself more, like the business is more profitable. I'm actually paying myself more than I've ever paid myself in the business. It's all just been wonderful. So I'm going to try and reel off a few of the different figures and stuff that I've written down. So I shared the 2025 planning workshop and workbooks and stuff a few weeks ago. I have been through that myself. And I don't think I went through it myself last year, but I went through it this year, and I was really impressed with myself. I was like, actually, this is really good, isn't it? Which I knew it was. But going through it myself, I was like, this is actually excellent. And it was really helpful for me to go through it. So do go and check that out. Again, I will link to that also. Do go and check that out if you haven't already, because it is a great process to go through. I found it exceptionally helpful, and I wrote it. So there we go. So in terms of actual numbers, let's get into some numbers. I'm going to look at my notes. So in terms of numbers, my income for the year was 55,000, or roughly. Again, we're not quite at the end of the year. I've got a few bits and pieces coming in, but it's about £55,000, and that's about $70,000 for the year. So about 55k for the year in pounds, 70k in dollars. And the breakdown of that, which I didn't always do, actually sit down and really break this down, because the way that I have things recorded on my spreadsheet is a little bit different on my cash flow, but I've sat and broken it down. So that is roughly, and again, I've very much roughly rounded up these numbers. We've got one-to-one and rounded down some numbers, rounded up some numbers. One-to-one mentoring, those are my actual package of one-to-one mentoring. That is £25,000 over the year, $32,000. My kind of other one-to-one stuff, so that's maybe more bespoke one-to-one offers, it might be some design work, things like that. That is £10,000 over the years. That's about $13,000 for the year. Wholehearted Business has been £13,000, about $16,500 for the year, and that has just kind of been mostly from May onwards, because again, the way that the income is coming in for that, it's coming over 12 months. A lot of that is actually going to come in 2025, which I love. We've also got clarity calls, £1,500 for the year, about $2k in dollars for the year. Courses and programs, it's been £2,500, about $3,000 for the year, and a little bit of affiliate income, so like £175, like $200. So that is kind of what the income breakdown has looked like, and I'm really happy with that. I have absolutely hit an income ceiling, so I need to talk about that at some point. I have been around about the 50 to 55k mark for a while, and there's various reasons for this. I think probably some energetic income ceiling stuff that I need to break through. There's probably something to do with in terms of my business model right now and the way that that's working. However, I do feel a lot more confident going into 2025 that this is going to shift. Now, I should say as well, like, I only work barely 20 hours a week in my business, and I know there's a lot of talk online about, I'm work like 2 hours a day and I make $1 million a year or whatever. That's whatever. I don't think that equals reality for most of us. But right now, I am running my business in about 20 hours a week. I am not, if I'm honest, pushing myself a lot in terms of doing anything crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is most of the time I am kind of in my general comfort zone. Again, that is something that needs to be addressed. That's a lesson that I've learned. But I am happy with that, and that's great. About 20 hours a week, I've got this wonderful business. I make a really, really good amount of money for 20 hours a week, and I get to do work that I love, and I get all this flexibility. Like, I'm happy with that. However, I absolutely want more income, definitely. I have wanted more income for a while. That has not come through in the way that I have wanted it to so far. And I feel like I've kind of got the foundations in place for that now. I think the key thing, and this is why I've been banging on, and this is what I'm saying to all of my clients, all the people that I work with, everybody, is depending on your business model. I mean, it depends on lots of different things. And again, I've got a new free training coming soon that's going to talk about this. But depending on your business model, you are going to need a level of audience, community growth, however, whatever you want to call it, growth to sustain that. And I have clearly not quite hit that yet. So one of my big things moving into 2025, spoiler alert, is going to be on audience growth. Now, I did do quite a bit of that this year, and I did focus on it. And I think that's been partly why things have shifted in the way that they have, in a really, really positive way. So again, while my income is about the same, I have paid myself more this year than I ever have. My profit is higher this year. I feel really, really much more confident than I've ever felt going into next year in terms of increasing that number, because I feel like I've kind of figured something significant out in 2024 in my own business. So those are the numbers basically. And in terms of like the lessons that I've learned in the business, I mean, there's been so many. I think the key things has been that not everything is going to work evergreen. I think there's a lot of people talking about evergreen. A lot of people don't like launching, and that's fine. Like if you don't like launching, then you don't have to launch. That there are other things that you can do. But I've realised I actually don't hate launching. I actually quite like launching. I like the energy that it creates. And it does make a difference to people actually deciding to invest in something at a certain point in time. I also like the energetic container that it gives me in terms of selling something. I just like launching. I think I've just really learned that I like it because it gets results, and actually it doesn't not suit my own energy. So launching has worked for me. It's been a really, really big game changer. That's made a really big difference. And that's been a big lesson learned. I think another one has been, again, just audience growth. I think the focus that I need to put on that. And again, as I said before, I've had to really accept that, I have not done anything mega out of my comfort zone for quite a long time for various different reasons. And that's okay. At the end of the day, I've got a thriving business that I've been running for over 14 years, like a long time. And it pays my bills, and I get to live the life that I want, and I get to have time, and that's all amazing. But I do want to have more income for all of the amazing things that come with that. And that's something that is still something that I need to work on, but I feel like I've got a really good plan for that, so that's fine. Another lesson that I've learned is that I do need to shift things around a bit in my business more towards less time intensive work if I want to create more income. I think part of the reason that I have hit this income ceiling is because the majority of my work is one-to-one and it is time intensive. Like I'm not a coach who you just see for an hour every month and then don't see me again until the next session. Like I am hands-on. We are emailing Voxer and I'm giving lots of feedback. I get stuck in. And I also do other, like I say, I don't have as many design projects as I have had in the past, but I do have a few, and those are obviously quite time intensive. I either need to increase the price for that, which I think I'm going to have to do, and I've kind of held back from that because I like to be able to serve people at the level, and I feel comfortable at the price that I'm at, but it probably is time for a bit of a price increase for my one-to-one work. I do give a lot in those offers, but I need to cut back on that if I'm going to have the time to actually grow the business and actually get the income coming in from other less time intensive sources. Again, I'll talk about what I'm going to do in 2025 in a second, but that's a big part of it as well. And obviously growing my audience is a big thing too. So while I've done some work on that this year, I've ran some paid ads, I've done some fantastic, bundles, I've grown my list a good chunk. I need to do more. Absolutely need to do more. So I think those are some key lessons learned. I think there's a bit of comfort zone that I need to push out of. I think there's a switch up because at the moment I am doing a lot of time. I've only got 20 hours a week. That's all I really want to work. And something is going to have to move around there. I think I probably talked about this last year because I think I was kind of recognising I might need to do more work to get through that. And again, I think last year I kind of was probably in quite a similar space. There's stuff been going on in my life as well that I don't want to get too into at this point in time, but there are other things going on in the background that are having an impact, but I don't particularly want to work any more hours either. So again, you get to this point and it's like, well, what's going to have to change. And these are where the lessons learned comes in. So that's kind of where the point that I'm at the moment in my business is these are the things that need to shift and change. These are the lessons that I've learned. But overall, really, really proud actually of everything that I've changed. And, although the income is, not that much more than last year, I'm actually feeling so much better about where I'm at because my cash flow is so much healthier. I think the biggest shift is that the business feels really, really, really different. If you're in my world, you'll know that it's not always about the numbers, although they're very important. And I'm always, here, we want to get more money and that's great. But the biggest shift for me in the business has absolutely been how it feels to be in it this year, and seeing that the shifts and changes that I've made have laid a foundation. So I think if anything, this year has been like that step towards the bigger place that I want to go and having more clarity about what works and what doesn't. So I feel really, really good about that. And then in terms of just like general life things for 2024, it's been a really, really fun year. I've done some good, fun things. I've actually pushed myself out of my comfort zone quite a bit just in life in general. So I went paddleboarding. So I did paddleboard yoga, which was really, really good fun. I absolutely loved doing that. That was a big step out of my comfort zone, but it's been so much fun. So thoroughly enjoyed that. At the start of the year as well, I had my eyebrows microbladed, which I can't remember if I talked about this on the show. This has actually been a really big thing for me because I, just from genetics, it's not like an indicator of anything underlying, but just genetically, I have always had really, really sparse eyebrows. So having them microbladed sounds like really like a small thing. It's made such a massive difference to a lot of things, to my confidence and all sorts of stuff. So had my eyebrows done in January. That was a big thing. I've done lots of wild swimming this year. It's something I really love. It's just one of those things that fills me up. And I've done lots of wild swims, which has been really lovely. Again, with the paddleboard and stuff like that. Lots of like outdoor stuff, which I really recognise is the stuff that lights me up, that makes me feel really, really good. So I've really enjoyed doing that. I went to Atomicon in June, the big business conference. I've had holidays away with my family. I've had holidays away with my friends. It's just been like a really lovely, bursting with lovely things kind of year, which is wonderful. And I'm really, really grateful for those things. Like my little girl Freya, she started school. So she went from nursery to school, which was a big transition. That's always like quite a big thing. So yeah, it's just been a really fun kind of adventure, nice year. And I think I want more of that adventure going into 2025. So overall, 2024, really, really great year. Really proud of the things that I've achieved in the business. Although the income hasn't shot up, I know that the shifts that I've made have created a massive impact, a massive positive impact in terms of the cash flow that I've got, in terms of how I feel in the business, in terms of seeing what is actually working and what isn't. Really happy with all of that. I've worked with more actual clients than I've ever worked with before as well this year. And just really happy with a lot of that. And again, stuff in my life's been really good fun too. So going into 2025, there were some kind of key things. There's a question in the workbook, in the 2025 planning workbook, which is what needs to change. You've looked at what's working, what's not, what needs to change going forward. So kind of identifying those things has been really helpful. And also, again, in the workbook, what we talk about is looking at your values or your version of success, your values, and however it is that you do your values work. So I have done mine. My kind of value stuff comes in through the Core Desired Feelings from Danielle Laporte's Desire Map that I've mentioned a few times. And also I'm in a program called To Be Magnetic, and they talk about your authentic code. So doing that work and making sure that the intentions that I want to work on are aligned with all of those things is key, or has been for me. So that's super useful to kind of have done that and to know that the things that I'm aiming to do kind of fit in with this bigger picture that I have for myself and my life as well. So that's been wonderful to kind of have that, and then also alongside that to have these things. These are the things that need to change moving forward to kind of set that. Now last year, when I planned for 2024, I had quite a detailed, it was quite a big plan, and there was a lot of stuff on there. And I think what I've recognised is that I definitely, bit off more than I could chew in terms of what I thought I would actually get done. And like I say, there was this kind of big thing happened in March where I was like, oh shit, I need to change stuff. And just kind of recognising that, I've really pulled back on how much I've put into the plan for next year. It is very, very basic. And that feels really, really good. I think one of the things that has come up that I haven't talked a lot about actually that I might talk about more in the future is I feel like I've been for a long, long time really living in my masculine energy, which is very much like being in control, having to do everything, having to control everything, having to drive things forward. And that is exhausting. And I feel like maybe there's a lot of us who are coaches, who are running our businesses, who might be in a similar position. Now, when I talk about masculine and feminine energy, it's, again, I'm assuming that some of you guys will get where I'm going with this, but it doesn't mean like it's not male and female. It's not that binary. We've all got masculine and feminine energy in our lives, in our bodies. You know how that comes out and how that interplays is all very, very individual. But one of the things that I've really realised over the last year is that I am operating in my masculine energy far, far, far too much. And it's been a bit of a coping mechanism. It's a way to control outcomes. It's all of those things. And actually, the over planning is almost a symptom of that a little bit. And something that I want to be a bit more conscious about going into 2025 is to not do that and to be a bit more in my feminine energy and allow things to kind of come through and not to over plan and leave space. I've always been aware of these things, and I've always, wanted to be intentional about leaving white space for things to come through. And I've always talked about that when I've talked about planning. But I think when I've really looked at what my experiences are of this in life and business and the ways that I show up, I want to be a bit more intentional about that. So I've left a bit more space for things to just evolve, again, kind of learning from the lessons of the year that's been and seeing how much things change from that kind of moment that I had in March. That's been a real eye-opener. So one of the big things that needs to change moving forward is I want to be a bit more in my feminine energy in my life and business, and not so much in that doing, controlling, driving things forward kind of space. Now, again, that kind of runs a little bit contrary to what I was saying about having to push myself out of my comfort zone. However, I feel like there's probably space for those two things to coexist. We shall see. I will report back on how all of that goes. So that's one of the lessons learned from last year, is that obviously a big lesson around audience growth. I bang on about it all the time. It is one of the big things that I've learned, not just over the last year, but previous to that as well. But I think there needs to be much, much more focus on that. I've learned that launching works. That's, again, the lesson I'm going to carry through. That's something that I'm going to do more of. Another thing actually that came up that I should have mentioned slightly earlier, but when I went into the summer, so obviously a mum, I've got my kids, they have 6 to 7 weeks off over the summer with school, and I went into the summer and actually realised I was really not as prepared as I would have wanted to be to enjoy that time in the way that I could have. So that was a lesson. I actually wrote myself a really long voice note at the end of the summer saying, Laura, future Laura, can you prepare better for this next time? So that's a change that I'm going to make going into 2025. So I had all these things kind of swimming around in my head, things that I wanted to shift and change. And I've kind of come up with a list of really clear, specific intentions for 2025. It is quite a long list of stuff, but it's different to how I did it last year, which was much, much more and much bulkier and much, much, much more that didn't get done. And that's okay, because we're learning from it and we're changing it. So business-wise, my income goal is still, and I kind of said 70, I've been saying 70k a year for a while. And I think actually what my most accurate income goal is, it's about being able to pay myself a certain amount of money every month. And to allow myself to pay myself that much every month, I don't actually need to earn 70k a year. It's a bit less than that. So I'm kind of playing between, do I want to aim for the amount that has that connection? And again, this has been a topic that we've talked about before on the show, where actually there's no point in just plucking a figure out of thin air because it sounds nice. What does that figure actually look like? So I'm kind of tempted to go for the slightly lower figure, because that actually has more connection to the goal that I want, which is to pay myself a certain amount of money every month. So I'm toying between the two, but basically I think if I could hit between 60 and 70k next year, I would be really, really happy with that. And I'm starting to realise as well now, I think that there'd been a bit of I think I've had a bit of an energetic ceiling on my income, because I've been around this mark for a while now, that I need to unpack and do some work around that. But I think part of this is like just really connecting with the fact that actually, I think there's always been this thing where I haven't wanted to go over the VAT threshold. And that's kind of been the scary thing in my head. So for anyone who's not aware of it, when your income goes over, I think it's about £90,000 a year now in the UK, you have to register for VAT, which means that every sale that you make, you have to pay 20% VAT on it. I don't want to have to do that for many reasons. I cannot be fucked with that at all, right? So that is definitely a thing. But it's 90, like I am way, I've got plenty of space before I get to 90k. So I feel like that's been something that's been sat there and I'm nowhere near it, but it's been sat there as a bit of a thing. Another thing that I need to remember is that actually a good chunk of my income comes from dollars, from people who are not in the UK. So I've probably got even a bit more space than that. So there's probably no reason why I couldn't hit 100k in pounds without having to hit the VAT threshold. But it is something that is just kind of at the back of my head and feels a bit scary. So that's an interesting thing that I'm thinking about. But basically, I think between 60 and 70k next year, I would be really, really happy without having to necessarily change a lot of the ways that I work or the hours that I work. That would be great because I really like the balance that I've got in my life. So that's really, really good. Happy with that. I'd like to increase my email list to 7,000 people. I've got 4,000 on my email list at the moment. I'd like to increase that to 7,000. That number is not based on anything in particular, but that's almost doubling it. I feel like it's a nice stretchy goal. And I feel like it's doable and I feel like it gives me something really exciting to aim for. So that's one of my intentions. I'd like to get to over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I feel like that's really, really doable. I'm on like 700 and something at the minute. I'd love to get to 1,000. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please help me get to that 1,000 subscribers goal and hit subscribe. That would be so wonderful. I could probably shoot that one a bit higher, but I feel like if I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'd be really happy with that on YouTube. So that's amazing. So those are like the key business ones, to be honest, in terms of that. And I think I've got a bigger overall kind of shift, which is I'd like to bring more people into Wholehearted Business. Like that is the program where I can support people. I feel for the majority of the people that I work with, Wholehearted Business is a fantastic place to be. I will always want to work with people one-to-one. But I know that Wholehearted Business is probably the most sustainable way for me to support people at a level where they are actually going to get supported. So I really want to grow Wholehearted Business. That is the big, 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 big thing. And I've got kind of targets in terms of how many people I'd like to bring in at each launch. But I'm also recognising that it's going to take time to build that up in terms of audience growth, in terms of figuring out what works. But that is the main thing. So in terms of what I want the business to look like next year, I've got my one-to-one mentoring programs, like really happy with those. The price is probably going to have to increase, so heads up if anyone is thinking about working with me one-to-one, now might be a good time to get in touch. So I'm going to nudge up those prices. I want to fill Wholehearted Business and have that be the chunk. I'd love to get to the point where Wholehearted Business is the majority of my income. That would make me really, really happy. And then I'm also busy developing something new. So this is a bit of a new thing. And what I've realised is that when Wholehearted Business is on a launch model and when the next thing that I've got from that is available all the time is one-to-one mentoring, I need something else that I can sell, that is there all the time, that I can sell, that is still really helpful and useful for people. So I've got some ideas around that. So watch this space. I've got something new coming, which is I'm really, really excited about. And that's going to be a big thing. And then obviously I've got all of my other programs and courses that kind of sit and exist, and I'm going to do some stuff with them next year as well. So generally speaking, my kind of thoughts going into 2025 in terms of Wholehearted Laura are one-to-one coaching and mentoring with a slightly increased price. Wholehearted Business, the price is going to increase for Wholehearted Business each time I launch it to a point. So again, if you do want to get into it, it's a good time to get into it is March, because the price will go up again in September. So take a look at that. Join the waitlist if you are interested, because you will get the best offer if you're on the waitlist as well. And like I say, go over to the Wholehearted Business page. It's all linked in the description. And then this other new offer that I'm going to create that is going to be available all the time and that I'm going to sell in a different way, and I will report back on that when that is all in place. So those are the things that I'm working on in terms of the business, and that feels simple, straightforward. I know what I need to do. There's nothing too faffy. I've got like everything feels really good around that. I feel really, really happy about that. It feels simple. It feels doable. I know that it's going to get me where I need to get to income wise. Like I can kind of see how that all pans out. And again, I've got a free training coming on business models. And this is when I'm talking about business models, it is like, what are your main profit driving offers. And for me in my business, like I want my profit center to be Wholehearted Business. At the moment, my profit center is my one-to-one mentoring, but I'd prefer it to be Wholehearted Business because of the way that I get to deliver that. So that's been really, really helpful to look at like what things are actually driving the income in the business and how does that all kind of interplay. So that's where I'm at in terms of those things right now. So that's where the business is, and it's really simple and there's not much else to add. Like that is literally what it's going to be. 2 launches for Wholehearted Business, one-to-one mentor in there with a bit of a nudged up price, and this other new thing that I'm going to work on. I feel like I'm being really like cryptic about that. It's nothing like crazy, but I'll talk a bit more about it once I've actually got that developed and built out. But basically it is going to be something that is helping people around their one-to-one coaching offer, because that's a big issue that I see with a lot of coaches, is that their one-to-one offer is just not structured well. It's not communicating its value very well, all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting. And then in terms of like my life behind the scenes, the things that I really want to do more of is more adventures. And I think that adventure might end up being my word for the year for 2025. So I'd love to do more paddleboarding. I've really enjoyed that. Like I say, I've been doing yoga on a paddleboard, which is amazing. But I'd like to just do more paddleboarding in general, more wild swimming. I'd really like to do some hiking. So I'd love to go and do some hiking in the Lake District and things like that and actually get outside more. I'd love to do more things intentionally, and I think we're getting to the point as well with my little girl, who is going to just be 5 really soon, that I think we can do more things and get outside a bit more where we're not having to drag a buggy with us anymore. She can walk a bit more and we can do a bit more outdoorsy active things with her now that she's a bit older. So that feels really, really good. So a few more adventures and things like that are the things that I'm actually really, really looking forward to. There's a few things around the house, like a few decor projects that I want to do, and there's some things that need fixing. There's some snaggy things that I want to get done. And again, like my general authentic code areas of like value-y things that I feel good about when I'm doing stuff, like these are all aligned to these things. Another big thing is my kind of self-care and well-being stuff. And for anyone who's like catching up, so I think it was, and I was looking back at all of my old yearly reviews and things, I think it was 2023, I lost 3.5 stone and went through a bit of a kind of wellness self-care thing. Again, this is part of a much longer story that at some point I might do an episode of the show and actually really talk about that for people who are more recently into my world. But when I started blogging in 2010, it was around health and well-being. It was around a really big weight loss journey. At that point in time, I think I'd lost 6 stone and then gained sort of like over pregnancies and things like that. And, again, looking back, it's really, really interesting to look back at these reviews. And I encourage everyone to do something like this, if it's a blog post or even just something that you write for yourself. But looking back, I think in 2018, I was really, really struggling with a lot of anxiety. And then in 2019, I got pregnant with my daughter, and then 2020 was 2020. But basically, I had a really big, I think I turned 40 in 2022, and I think I was a bit like, yeah, we need to sort our shit out, Laura. So I sorted my shit out and just really embraced self-care again, and all of the things like that I was teaching and I was talking to people and supporting people around as a coach when I was a health coach after I'd been through my initial weight loss journey and kind of self-care journey. So that's been really, really profound, and it's still something that is a focus for me now. And I think because it makes me feel good when I'm intentional around the way that I'm treating my body and the way that I'm taking care of myself. And that's not about the weight in particular, but the weight is like the end point of that, if that makes sense. So I kind of recognise that the weight stuff was actually more of a shift just based on the fact that I made changes that were about taking better care of myself more than I need to lose weight because I want to look this certain way kind of thing. So it's been really, really interesting journey to go on over the years, but that is still a big focus going into 2025, is just this taking care of myself. And again, part of this comes in and it nicely ties everything together now, but I think this really comes into a lot of why we start coaching businesses, which are or any kind of doing something that's a bit different to the norm. I wanted to start a coaching business because I was really, really passionate about health and well-being. I'd been through my journey. I wanted to support other people. I was really passionate about the changes that could create in your life. And that was why I trained to be a health coach way back in 2012. And that was the reason that I did it. And then from that point, I was like, this is amazing because I get to run my own business and have potentially unlimited income potential, once I kind of crack this thing with the 55k a year thing. I've got all this potential to actually live the life that the way that I want to live it, and actually really design my life around that. And that felt amazing for someone who's always been into personal development and things like that. So I think another thing that I'm quite interested in exploring, and again, I'd love any feedback from you guys, is talking a bit more about the living your best life part of actually having a coaching business. Because again, like I said, a big part of this for me has been I get to go to the gym on a Wednesday afternoon. I get to go to the gym on a Friday morning. I get to take Fridays off if I want. I get to go to the coast and have a wild swim during the week if that's what I want to do. That has been a really, really important part of this for me, and actually identifying, what are the things that make my life more enjoyable and that make me feel more me has been a big part of that whole thing. So yeah, maybe I'll talk a bit more about that in 2025. So there we have it. That has been 2024 for me, and that is what I've got planned for 2025. As always, it is a big watch this space, because who knows what's going to happen. And again, I kind of like that anticipation. It's like a fresh new chapter in our lives. Who knows what is going to happen. And I find that all quite exciting. Sometimes a little bit anxiety inducing, but mostly exciting. I'd love to know what 2024 has been like for you, what your plans are for 2025. Please let me know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, do pop me a message on Instagram. I'm at Wholehearted Laura. If you are listening on the podcast, or head over to the blog post and leave me a comment on there. I'd love to know what all of this has looked like for you, what you have planned for 2025. I really hope that planning workshop was helpful as well. Like I say, it was really helpful for me to actually do that myself and to see what that brought up, those questions. But I feel like 2025 is going to be, I'm kind of doing that thing where I'm just checking in with my gut. I feel like 2025 is going to be okay. I feel like it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be a good one. We shall see. As always, thank you so much for being here with me on the Wholehearted Business Show. We're up to like 155 episodes of the show now, which is mind-blowing to me that I've actually talked like this 155 times. So thank you so much for being part of my journey, part of my business, part of my world. Thank you so much. I really do value every single listen, every single view on YouTube, everyone who reads the blog. Thank you so much. I am sending you all the most positive, wonderful vibes in the world to wherever you are right now who is watching or listening to this. Thank you so much. And I really hope that you stick around for 2025. I've got some really good things. Again, I'm just really passionate about helping people grow their own coaching businesses, create the positive change in the world through them actually coaching their clients, but also the positive impact that they have in their own lives as well. And it's just all really exciting. So thank you so much for being here. The show will take a short break. We will be back on Monday the 6th of January with another episode, getting stuck right into 2025. Like I say, I've got some really great things coming in early next year. Wholehearted Business will be reopening in March. So if that's something that you are interested in, just bear that in mind. Do go and join the waitlist. Otherwise, my one-to-one mentoring is always there. I have a limited number of slots to start in January. I've just finished off with a few clients, so having a limited number of slots in January. The price is going to have to go up next year at some point. I will communicate that beforehand, but if you're interested, now's a really, really good time to get in touch. Again, all the links are in the description. And yeah, I will be back on the 6th of January 2025 with another episode of the show. I hope you all have a wonderful festive season, a wonderful new year, and I will see you in 2025. Bye guys.